I will call to order the regular meeting of the Park Commission, City of Dayton, on June 24th. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda is before you. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, the approval of the Park Commission meeting for May 7th. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh, no, to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Open forum, anyone wishing to address the commission can do so.
Nothing online.
With no one here, I would close the open forum and move on to the council update.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm sitting in for Matt Trost. Last council meeting started off with the budget work session. Zach had stated that the 2024 tax rate is at 35.64 with some of the changes that are going to be coming up. They discussed some of the increases through each department and is ultimately ending at like an 18 point, I remember what it was, 16% increase overall. I'm trying to look at the notes here, but an increase. But as always, it's budget season kickoff, so we're gonna hear from all the departments just kind of what their asks are for the upcoming year. Discussion points that led on to into the meeting was there's a discussion on the West Territorial infrastructure of extending utilities down by Odessa, if you know where Odessa is on Territorial between Brockton and Dayton Parkway. There's a chunk there, there's some development that is going in there, and they kind of had a discussion about the infrastructure and extending that stuff, and just kind of the means of what would we use, like TIF, state aid, developer contribution, special assessments. There's no finite details yet on what that looks like. They just wanted to bring it before us just as a discussion piece. Does it make sense kind of thing for stuff that's going on down there. Another discussion point was the Parkway intersections, signal improvements that are going to be needed at the Parkway and Territorial, and then also on the south side of 94. There's some development that's going on there that's going to need some intersection control. So they talked about lights versus roundabouts, lights and roundabouts, a discussion just kind of on the whole thing. The direction that we gave staff was to entertain moving forward with just the lights on that one. Moving forward, we talked more about the Dayton Parkway alignment, kind of rehashed some, Mr. Quisberg had brought in his background on it and kind of gave us a little update on like how we landed on the X and the H alignments, if you've been paying attention on those discussions, but not a whole lot of direction was given. We just recognized that we have two directions to proceed, and we just kind of had to pick which one and which alignment future state. So, and then action items that came up was the land forfeiture for purchase for the EDA, which was ultimately ended up tabling because we need to understand the functions of the EDA better and what their bylaws are going to start stating. There's some discrepancies there. And then talking with Police Chief Enga about retention incentives for the police department. Looks like there's same thing kind of like we're experiencing on the fire side. There's a lot of openings, but not a lot of people that want to fill them. But we want to definitely keep the good or keep the police officers we have, but also create a program that kind of incentivizes bringing some people in too, so we're not trying to fight against, our neighbors and all that stuff. So it's something that I guess he's put together where we're all in agreement with it. So it's I want to keep good talent in Dayton. So it's something that we have to kind of keep entertaining because it's something that not even just the public workforce is encountering, but even the private infrastructure is also encountering the same thing. So that was pretty much it. There was a closed session afterwards, but I was remote, so I wasn't part of it, so I don't have a whole lot of details on that. I don't think I can talk about it yet. So, but that's it.
Very good.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Any questions? We'll move on to our regular meeting. First on the agenda is the Tree City USA program.
This
Yeah.
is an effort by John Knudsen. He sent in an email. I just put in a staff report. I'll hand it over to John to go through what this program is and how it will fit with the city.
Cool. Yes, thank you. So, I'll admit I'm not an expert in the program. It's something I've seen around other cities, like I think Anoka, I'm pretty sure Maple Grove, have this designation. When you drive into town, it'll say underneath Tree City since such and such year, or for however many years rather. So I did a little bit of digging into it, and I found this kind of 1 or 2 page overview of the requirements for recognition, and then I'm not exactly sure if we already meet them or what kind of a stretch it might be as a city to meet them, but just going through them on, what is this, page 3. Standard 1 would be forming a tree board or department. I know we have a certified inspector, so I think that's probably a step in the right direction. I don't know if this commission would be also considered some kind of a board. You know, we're not called a tree board, but we certainly discuss them. A tree care ordinance, I've seen things in our city codes and ordinances relating to, like, you can't destroy all the trees when you're doing construction, but I don't know if, again, what their exact requirements on that would be. Maintaining a forestry program with an annual budget of at least $2 per capita. I'm sure Marty spends at least $2 per capita on something that you could say is for trees. That's probably not a problem.
I think
You know,
I
without
could do
even
that
changing
easily.
anything, we
Yeah.
just, a lot of our stuff works on trees. And then proclaiming and observing Arbor Day, that seems like a pretty straightforward one. So, I don't exactly know what the next steps would be, except for I thought I'd bring it here and discuss it. Probably we need some help from the city side on, you know, what would it take to form a tree board or department, or do we already meet those requirements? And same with that tree care ordinance. Again, I did some digging through the online codes and stuff, but I'm certainly not a legislative expert there. But I thought it'd be something probably worth pursuing, assuming it doesn't have much of a cost associated. I don't think it would.
And I do know that we do have some ordinances in place for tree removals when a developer comes in. I think it's for every tree removed, every inch you have to replace it with 2 inches across the board. And there are a certain amount of tree requirements for each lot. I think you need to have 8 caliper inches of trees on each lot. So we are moving in that direction somewhat.
Cool.
And there are some greenway corridors, like in Ione Gardens, which is, you know, basically protecting those trees that are
Sure.
in there. You know, they're good quality trees that we need. Do you want to add?
We do not have a diseased tree ordinance, so many cities that do have
Sure.
the Tree USA designation do. So the example would be is if I have a dead tree in my yard, the city would have the ability of requiring me to remove that, or the city would do it and assess the cost to me for property taxes.
Yeah,
That's a big step.
sure.
You know, so just thinking of like the emerald ash borer as an example of, you know, we didn't have too many, I don't remember what year it was, kind of came into Dayton, I want to say like the late 2018, 2019 or so, but that would be a significant change for the city. It would also be a significant cost to property owners that have diseased trees, but it also protects owners that have healthy trees so far.
Sure. Yeah, if that's a specific requirement of it, that would absolutely be more of something to discuss. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to discuss, but I'm not trying to go that far if we don't have to necessarily, just to get this accreditation sort of. That's a great call out, though.
Who would be the one to make that distinction, like down
Be
at
the-
Emerald Ash Borer or the dead tree thing, or
The arborist, city arborist.
so is that
We're currently training a guy. Our tree
okay?
inspector
That was gonna be
is-
my follow-up question: is do we have one?
He on Wednesday takes his exam, so hopefully after Wednesday
your
we will have
fingers.
one.
So in that essence, then you have somebody with the ability in the city to
Yeah.
make that call then.
That's kind
So-
of the push behind it. We have been looking at emerald ash borer, and since we've been getting all this tree removal equipment and stuff, it's up to what we can do as a city. Without that equipment, we couldn't do any of this at all. So we have talked about, within the department about how we're going to manage this emerald ash borer thing, and if there are, trees that we can remove from people's property because it's in the interest of the city, then maybe we would do that if it's close to the right-of-way in the front. But I'm not going to send my guys into the back of somebody's property to pull down a bunch of trees, and
Right.
the tree goes down on their
Right.
boat, and then we've got all kinds of problems. So
Yeah.
I think we'll have to think about how that goes together, but I'm certainly open to that idea.
Does it change if if their property line abuts up to like the city park or something like that? Kind of changes the dynamics, but like
Yeah.
property owner to property owner, it's kind of, let your insurance kind of
Yeah.
duke it out at that point kind of thing?
I try not to be involved with too much of
No,
that.
not us, yeah, but they,
Yeah.
you
But
let them
the-
take care of that.
I think a lot of the homeowners, I've been dealing with a homeowner who's had exactly that situation where a tree came down, was on his property, it came down on his neighbour's property and stuff. So, we did go out and look at trees and give a recommendation to the homeowner saying, you need to remove that one as soon as possible, or, if that one comes down, it's not going to come down on your house, but, you need to, have somebody come out and remove it for you.
Okay.
Currently, everyone's just on their own. Is that just kind of
Yeah, it's by choice if
Right.
they were to remove it.
okay? John, on your research on this, do you see any? Because there's essentially no cost. I think we can probably, based on what we already have going here.
Right, I'm not aware of a direct cost to apply for it. It would just be implementation costs on the city side to have a program, pay the arborist, things we might be doing already. Ideally, we're doing most
Right.
or all of them. That's kind of what I was hoping
I
for.
feel like we've already kind of are close on a lot of it. So
That's
is there really?
exactly-
Do you see any negatives, or does anyone see any negatives to this? And I'm assuming that's why other cities surrounding us are doing it.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of
Anoka's
negatives.
had it
it's
for like
just kind of
40
a
years or
positive
something.
Thing to have associated with your
Yeah.
city.
I think it's a good idea as long as we have ordinances and a goal as to what to plant. For example, 169 was closed the other day. And so I moved over to Boone and went down Boone from Brooklyn Park to St. Louis Park. And I'd say I saw boulevard trees or trees on the side of the road. I saw at least 100 dead trees. Now, I don't know, we don't have an ordinance. I believe they were all ash trees. But boy, I tell you, it was devastating to see. I wouldn't mind seeing an ordinance or at least a program where we can talk about the trees, recommend species, that kind of thing. I think it really deserves an arborist.
There is a recommended tree list on the city ordinances as well that we currently do have in place. So when developers come in, we give them that list of trees that they can choose from. It's not hard and fast, but it specifically, highlights the trees that we don't want them to put in. So
Is that into public right-of-ways, or is that when they're putting trees on their lots that they're
that's
selling?
within development. So yes, within the public areas or the lots.
Because I'm just reading like some of the standards, so I was like, as you guys are discussing, it sounds like that would be something that would be established a tree care ordinance. Like it sounds like we kind of have, the meat to that
Yeah.
that standard right away, or right off the bat. So maybe there's just some tweaking, but like standard 1, form a tree board or department, doesn't say like who, how many, or what, but by forming a tree board or department, cities can create more organized and effective urban forestry plans. Well, what's an urban forestry plan?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of digging into this, but I'm not 100% up to
Yeah.
where we should be. But I think urban forestry is more, well, John probably knows a bit more about this than I do, but it's a program for the entire city, from what I understand.
Yeah, just maintaining a diverse canopy that's going to be
Yeah.
future-proof. And I read the standard as delegating the responsibility. Well, we've done that effectively.
Yeah.
The Parks Department manages those trees, or Public Works rather, so.
Right.
Right, I don't think they're saying you have to have a 2040 plan for your trees, but by doing this, this is why it's valuable. We can form, I mean, you've probably got partial tree inventories, I think you've mentioned already, so.
Yeah.
We already have recommended trees. Might just be putting all these things in the format that says, oh yeah, look at, you're doing
Yeah.
the right things.
I'm just kind of thinking like, would it identify like boulevards or,
Mm-hmm.
the strip between the sidewalk and the curb, things of that nature? Because I'm pretty sure there's areas where you just don't want trees either, like in
Yeah.
your
And we try to
retention
move
ponds
away.
and things of that nature or something. Or maybe you do, I don't know.
We're moving away from we discourage putting trees in the boulevards, basically because they either rip out the curb or the sidewalk behind them. So you won't find too many places in town, other than the old village, where there's a lot of those trees and they're doing exactly that. And there's a number of emerald ash trees down there that are going to be going anyway. So there are certain things that we're looking at. I've lost my train of thought now.
It was just more or less around, I was asking like the urban, like what's the plan? What consists in the plan?
Yeah.
Obviously like there's places we do want them, and there's obviously places
Yeah.
we don't. Like
Yeah.
clearing up like, no, we don't want boulevard trees because they rip up stuff. Like I
Yeah.
get it now, like,
Yeah.
but like I
Yeah.
think it's, I like the idea of it. I don't see it being too convoluted to implement, but I think to John's point, like Anoka has it. I actually drove through, I think it was Yatesville, Georgia, and I saw like a Tree Tree City USA
Yeah,
sign
little-
underneath it. So as soon as I was like, hey, I saw that sign somewhere. I know I was down south
could
when
be
I
us.
saw it. So no, it's like, and it was an older community too. It was,
I think there's a couple of other points here. I think there's, it's having an ordinance that is enforceable as well. So,
that, yep.
that's going to, we've got limited resources for enforcement, but if we make it reasonable.
Right.
So how we structure that ordinance. And then the other thing, with any of these projects like this, I think there's a huge education element to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to figure out how that goes. So when they plant their trees, they know how to look after those trees
Absolutely.
and what
Yep.
to expect in the coming years and that kind of thing.
Yep.
Marty, what is the current ordinance for number of trees that have to be on each lot?
It's 8 inches of trees, 2 in the front yard, and they could be in the front yard. It depends on the front yard space. If they're in a cul-de-sac where you've got limited space, then we put in an ornamental tree, or we had an extra tree at the back, so we can be a little bit flexible on it. So it's generally 3 to 4 trees on a lot.
Total, 2 in the front, 2 in the back.
Yeah, it can be that. As long as the minimum requirement is 8 inches.
Okay. And then when one goes down or something happens, then the expectation from the city is that a new one is planted. Like, let's say someone had 4 trees and lost all 4 in a storm. Say it's a new build or whatever, and they all get ripped out right away. Is the expectation from the city or the ordinance from the city that you go back to 4?
Only
Or-
within that first year.
First
Okay.
2 years.
Yeah, first 2 years.
24
So
months.
once you're in at year 3 or year 4, if you lose them or cut them down or anything, you can. That's at that point. That's just the
You're
homeowners.
treeless, yeah.
This is
Okay.
that ordinance is particularly aimed at the builder. It's a requirement of them getting that escrow back that they have this 8 inches of trees.
Got it.
Once they get that back, the homeowner can do whatever they like on their private property. I've got no say over that. But this, the ordinance is this. And we've had it in the past where I do my inspection, you go back next day and the trees
It's all
are gone.
gone.
That's what I was wondering if you've dealt with that. Okay.
Yeah, and there's nothing that, I can't enforce anything there. The only control that we have is we're holding escrow money against the builder, and they're putting in what we want to see there. The homeowner can do whatever they like on their property at the end of the day.
Well, to be clear, my understanding, or at least my feelings on this is if we were going to be enforcing anything, it would be, this tree is dangerous, it is dead, it's going to become more dangerous over a park, over a right-of-way. Let's get it taken care of. If you can't afford it, maybe you get assessed over 10 years or whatever. if we could even get a tree care ordinance that satisfies these without having to go that far, because we maybe don't have the resources or the interest in putting that on a residence, I think that would maybe even be ideal.
Yeah,
But
we can do something along those lines, for sure. I mean, maybe we just have a chainsaw that we take around and drop off in their front yard.
we're not looking. Yeah.
I mean,
And then, even like when you look at some of the
No.
neighborhoods and stuff and some of the common land, there's just a lot of questions that, like, the common land, like what is, for example, like we have an issue in our neighborhood where we've got a lot of very small trees. They look to be very much like seedlings as you go around the pond back there. And they're just getting bigger and bigger. And we have some thought is that they're invasive species and they're going to destroy the shoreline. Others have said, hey, let it be. I like the protection. So in those types of situations, I just wonder how the city handles that or what that looks like, because it gets kind of dicey, especially when you have, like in our neighborhood, literally people have land that's in the water, but it's actually their land.
Sure. So
It's kind of, so I just wonder where the city, like how that, and then if we're to do this, John, like what that looks like. Are we out enforcing that? Are we policing that? Because this sounds nice, but like if we have to go out and, whether it's us or a new board that, or a specific committee that's for Tree City, like, are they spending all their time going out and shit? Like, I just wonder if it's going to put us too far in the weeds. Like, are we better off to, like, John's like,
Nope,
yeah, we just,
So
you're
this
on your
is
own
separate.
now.
So going forward with what you're talking about around the storm ponds, there's three things there. There's some storm ponds that are platted through, like I say, and it's a homeowner's property, so it's their responsibility generally to take care of that land. Some of them are maintained by the HOAs, so they'll take care of that, and that includes the tree care. If trees come down in their land, then they have to replace those. And then the third part of it is the city has some of these ponds that they need to maintain, but we're more interested in the maintenance aspect of the pond, not the maintenance, the operational aspect of those ponds. So if it's interfering with the operation of the pond, then we'll go and take those out. Where we come into a lot of problems with this stuff, we've gone around early in the year to go and do a mow around the outside, not all the way down to the water's edge, but around the perimeter, and people come out and they get all in arms that you're killing the birds and the turtles and the nesting birds and all this stuff. So it's kind of difficult, but we are trying to implement a 5-year plan, and it's part of our MS4 status that you have to inspect the ponds once every 4 years. So we're basically dividing the city into 4 areas, and then we will look at the operation of the pond and the maintenance aspect. So we do have a little bit of flexibility in there, but there's, it's a combination of things. If we have to go in there and take out some of the volunteer trees, the willows and that stuff, because it's interfering with operations or whatever, then we will go in and take that. But it's going to be a communication thing with residents and stuff as well.
And that would be totally separate from what Tree City's doing,
Yep.
correct?
I would say it should be totally different, yeah.
Perfect.
So what can we do with this?
I mean, I could do some more digging and communicate with the organization, say, this is what we have, does this meet requirements? I just didn't want to, go start freelancing on my own without people agreeing that it's a good idea and worth at least looking into, what it would take to make that leap.
I think it's a great idea. I am just concerned about a arborist. And when do we bring an arborist on board?
Well, it sounds like on Wednesday we will have an arborist if he
Wednesday.
passes his test. So,
So that's solved. And the $2 per capita, I think, is solved. And the tree border department could be addition to us, or it could be something that's done by the Parks Commission.
that's what I'd
And
look
the
for some
tree care
clarity on
ordinance,
exactly.
We already have some general, I mean, in my opinion, it looks like we could hammer out all 4 standards pretty quickly, in my opinion. That's the way I read it. I just don't see a lot of negatives about it.
I'd agree to that.
And I also don't think John's going to throw a bad idea at us. That's my personal.
Thank you. So yeah, if we agree on that, I can shoot, I'm sure there's an email somewhere on their website, and I'll introduce myself, and we'll go from there. I'll bring an update to the next meeting.
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds
Cool.
great.
Good.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for the effort there.
Very cool.
Next on the agenda is Veterans Park.
Okay, again, this is something that came from a member of the commission. David sent me an email with some ideas and stuff on there. So I figured it would be good to have David speak to what he's thinking about this and what he would like to see with this.
Thanks, Marty. Yeah, so I just took an idea from our last meetings to go through and see what other cities and communities have put together for a park. First, I looked at kind of a good location, and with the hints of our $1 million view in L.C. Stevens Park, I thought, kind of right along that little archway would be ideal for, whatever we choose to do with Veterans Park. And I kept the ideas and thoughts pretty small. As you can see here, there is, the $1 million one there with the pillars and the gentleman in his rifle, which is great, but my thoughts were just keep it small. Just a couple pictures here, sure they could be headstones, or we could take that seal and sink that into the ground there, or we could get people involved and say sponsor an area and just have a little off pivot there. So I didn't do a lot of searching, a lot of digging or anything like that, just kind of threw something together in my free time. Wanted to pop it out here just to hopefully spark ideas, thoughts. Especially Doug, this is kind of your baby, so just getting the ball rolling really.
I like the brick idea. You can buy a brick. But I guess the location is the next step.
Okay.
Should it be in L.C. Stevens? Should it be in a different park?
I think I like the idea of L.C. Stevens. It had that tie-in with Wynn Stevens. That right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a plus, and it's a location that we're already working on.
Yeah.
I think it fits in nicely there, in my opinion.
It would be nice to be able to recognize Wynn Stevens for what he has contributed to not only Dayton, but the city of Minneapolis.
I will say one thing that I did note on here. We talked last time about putting something out on social media, trying to get some feedback on that. Since that meeting, the council has decided to go with a survey crew. We were looking at putting something on referendum for the vote in this year, but it looks like we're not going to have time to do that. So we're working with a company, and John can probably talk better to this than I can.
Yeah, so staff and the council has had this discussion of having a public opinion survey. And so there's a company that's called Morris Leatherman that has conducted a number of surveys for area cities on many different topics. So there's a general kind of question or quality of life. So there's a series of, I can't remember how many questions that, for whatever topics that the council would like to have. So some specific topics that the council has asked for is related to parks. Both, I'm generalizing this as far as sports parks versus passive parks, as well as trails. And you can break down each of those topics further. So specific to Veterans Park would be if there's a specific type of park amenity that should be in Dayton. So like, a Veterans Park would be one example, splash pad would be another example. So, generally, is there support for a Veterans Park from the public? And if so, do they have any idea where or what it might look like? And it's a very subjective question. So, one person may say, I want it this, and someone may say, I want the opposite, and it's up to the commission to kind of interpret what that means.
Oh, we're too late for that survey? Is that what you said?
No, so we're kind of in the very beginning discussion between staff and the consultant. We're hoping to bring this to the council probably in July or August. Probably more like August.
So there's a chance that we could be in on a veterans subject?
If you would like.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of why I brought it up, is because if we want to do that, now's the time to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think it's, we'd probably get a better response or a feel of what people want rather than just posting something on the city website
Yeah.
and hoping somebody will respond. This is going to be driven
It's
by an
very
outside
targeted,
resource.
yeah. That sounded really cool how they do it,
Yep,
so.
so the way the survey works is that the contractor would call you and make an appointment to call you again for a longer conversation. And so they contact 400 residents of, I'll say kind of an even, yeah, an even pool of demographics. So, equal, 50% men, 50% women, different, equal age groups, different parts of the geography of the city. So of those 400 residents, you end up getting a scientific result back that's more representative of the whole city.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
What do we need? Do we need a motion on that, or?
No, I guess the question would be, is there anything specifically that you want to know from the residents?
I think the most important is the Veterans Park subject and the athletic complex.
Okay.
Do you want that as part of the Veterans Park? Do you want them to identify a location for it, or I don't know if that's too specific, John.
I think,
It's probably too specific. I think a lot of residents are not going to be familiar with where all the parks are in the city.
Okay.
So just a yes or no, basically, like, would you be
Yeah.
for?
It might also be if the resident is familiar with another veterans park in a different city, what attributes are they looking for? What would they like to see?
I also think that asking about the athletic complex, we keep talking about that, and it's obviously a big undertaking. We'll see where people are at with it.
Yep.
Because there's plenty of people that have no problem going to Champlin for things or to Maple Grove or whatever, and we might not be hearing from the people that are like, why don't we have this here? And if that's the deal, then over the next 4 or 5 years, we have to carve out some money and figure out some land, but if people don't care,
Right.
then they don't,
Well,
it's just interesting to get, if you're going to get a full 400 different houses, that's a really great sample set, and that's way better than our opinions, in my opinion.
And kind of on that same topic, and one of the questions will be is what are the residents' priorities for spending money? So, when you think of the sports complexes, this is going to be fairly expensive, and so if this is a priority for residents, how much are they willing to pay in additional taxes to support whatever that is? And is a sports park more important than a veterans park or splash pad or something else? Like, where are their priorities?
Well, I am not expecting us to have an athletic complex built overnight. My goal is to find the land
Right.
and then take the next step in them.
But like CDA said that they'd be willing to help with funding it, and there's other grants and other things out there. So if it's a $5 million project or whatever it is, like, where does the money come from? What's the breakdown? Is it, $500,000, is it a tax increase over, where do we carve it out? But I agree with Doug, a lot of it's the land part right now.
Okay,
When would we get the results back, do you think, from this survey? Because
I couldn't tell you. I'm going to say it's a couple of months, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
so we're thinking 2025, then we could do something with a Veterans Park?
Yes, I'm thinking this would be a 2025 project of planning it over the winter and
Okay.
figuring out, establishing a budget and so on.
Okay.
on the
Okay.
topic of the sports complex, is how it's funded something that would be explored in the survey, or is that something you would leave to like council to figure out, like
I would
taxes
suggest
versus borrowing versus
putting
whatever
some-
else?
I would put a lot of lean a lot on the results of the residents of, for example, if this is a conversation with the council, if there's interest in putting in a referendum, the council needs to know how much to ask for, and you don't want to ask for too much because it's going to get voted down. So you got to ask the right question, and that's based on you know, if the residents say, I'm willing to pay $10 a year or $100 a year, it makes a big difference. So it's, in asking through the public opinion survey of how much more money are you willing to spend in property taxes for what service?
Gotcha.
And I think you need to put together several options. It's, I mean, like the firehouse and the athletic complex. It's, you have to offer them a little candy out there to get them to come your way.
I think it'd be advantageous if you could find a piece of property that could accommodate both. I mean, that just looks good for the city, and I feel like all around, like, utilizing that property to its best means, if you can do 3 different services on it, right? Complex, training facility, and a firehouse, absolutely. On one property, on one big piece of property, makes sense, at least from my lens, so.
I don't know that it needs to be a contiguous piece of land.
Sure.
I just want a firehouse and an athletic complex.
Somehow tying those projects together at some point, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I see what you're saying now.
So when are they planning to do the survey?
I don't know yet, so, yeah, right now we're just working on kind of drafting questions. So there are good times and bad times to ask questions.
You're all set there then?
Well, would it be, I have a question. Would it be beneficial if we asked the survey company what kind of questions they want, well, what kind of questions they would want us to ask in their survey kind of thing? So like what kind of, I'm trying to think like that there's a certain question.
Tell them what we want to find out and have them help word it.
Yeah, here's what we're looking for. You know, what information do you need from the commission for you to formulate the questions that you're going to ask the people? Like there's doing that conjoined partnership kind of thing, you know. So I mean, other than just coming at it blind, asking them like, hey, Parks Commission has interest in utilizing this service as well. So however that ties together.
Yeah, I know that the contractor, they've done this for many different cities, and so I'm thinking, my assumption is that they have a whole laundry list of
They've
questions
got,
that they've
yeah.
asked before. It's just, what are the topics that the council wants to know about, and then they'll have a question that fits that query.
My only concern in this, swinging this all the way back to the Veterans Memorial, is we all agree that we should have a memorial somewhere in here. And if we tie this to, which is a great idea, to the survey, we are pushing it out a year. In my mind, looking at this, we are going to keep it $10,000 or less dollars. Something easy, quick, but meaningful. So if everybody is willing to push it out till 2025 just to get a question answered, I'm on board. But I just wanted to bring that to the group.
I think that's reasonable. I think the goal there, I think eventually we're going to have to identify the veterans and get them excited about a veterans memorial. So I think 2025 is fine.
Yep.
Did we talk about this at the last? I remember at the last Parks meeting I was at. Was there a discussion about possible like a conflict with Magnus, because aren't they doing a memorial as well?
Yeah, there was some discussion about that they were going to be doing their own memorial. Since that conversation, that may have changed a little bit, and they
Okay.
may well be interested in working with us on this.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not directly involved with this. I'm getting this through Zach. So
Okay.
there may be a little bit of flexibility there with them as well. So.
Okay, well, there we go.
Good. Your questions are answered? Or?
I got all mine. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
very good. Can we move on then? John's planning update.
Oh, I should move. Thank you. We had a busy spring. So we have four development concept plans that came to the Planning Commission in early June. They're here before you tonight, and they go to the City Council tomorrow. So specific to consistency with the Parks and Trails plan is what I'm looking for in the Commission is recommendations or comments for each project as it relates specifically to Parks and Trails. And so kind of what my thought is to go through these kind of each one by one and just get a reaction from the Commission. So the first project is Bluestone Properties. Let's see. And let me just give you kind of a roundabout where each of these are in geographically, and then I'll get into each one individually. So the first topic is Bluestone Properties. So this is on the, well, that really highlighted. On the north shore of Diamond Lake. The second project is Shaney, which is on the north border of Laura Lake. I'm going to touch those.
Good job, John.
Thank you. And then we have DCM Farms, which is, I can't avoid it, off of Fernbrook. And then Pulte off of Territorial Road, and, well, that one worked, and East French Lake Road. Okay. So, the first project for, and eventually this will catch up, is for Bluestone Properties. So this is, what's being proposed is 45 single-family homes on the north shore of Diamond Lake. Within the Parks Plan proposes a trail along the north shore of Diamond Lake, as well as a trail connection that goes up through the middle of the project or the middle of the property up to North Diamond Lake Road. Yes. And then also there's a search area for, I believe it's a tot lot within the same area. The project itself is proposing a boat, or I'll call it a lake access. So this would be a private access for the residents of the 45 homes. And as far as parks go, there's none that's proposed that would be open to the public. So this is kind of with the concept plan. What we ask is the developer to put a plan together. It's fairly rudimentary. It doesn't have much engineering to it. It's intended to solicit comments and recommendations from the commission. Everything that is said is non-binding, so you can have one commissioner that says they want one thing and another commissioner that says they want the opposite, and the developer has to figure out what that means. So again, as it relates to Parks and Trails in the comprehensive plan, the trail plan, or the Parks and Trails plan, proposes a trail along North Diamond Lake Road, or the shore of North Diamond Lake Diamond Lake. It's not North Diamond Lake. There's only one Diamond Lake. As well as a trail along North Diamond Lake Road and a connection between the lake trail and the road trail, as well as a tot lot somewhere on the property. I will mention one thing that is unique about this property is it does have an existing, I'll call it a farmstead at kind of right in the middle of the property. That does have a group of 3 accessory buildings, small accessory buildings or shelters. One, and I don't know the whole story of this. It appears that it's more of a stage. There's one that is an outdoor kitchen, another that's an outdoor bar. The current property owner, I believe, has owned it for a few years, but is not the one that built all these things. So there's got to be some history with these that I'm not aware of.
So
any
all of those things are where in the center of the property?
right?
Like how
Yes.
would you?
It
How
would
would
not.
everybody get access to it if it's in everybody's backyard?
So it would not work as far as this layout goes. So I guess the question would be from the commission is, and it's a hard question to ask because I'm not showing you any pictures of what this looks like. But if they're in good condition, if there's an interest in incorporating that into some type of public park.
You said it wouldn't be open though, to,
So the developer's intent is everything in here is closed to the public. So this,
including the park.
include the boat launch or the lake access, so there's,
But not the tot lot?
I don't think they mentioned a tot lot. That's,
Yeah.
we want a tot lot.
Sure,
I don't
yeah,
think,
I don't think
they
we-
necessarily.
For us to back that, though, we, go ahead, Carrie.
I was gonna say, the only thing they have on here is the private dock.
Correct. So the developer does not have a plan for a tot lot. That's something that the comprehensive plan would suggest that there be one. I don't think the developer was knowledgeable about that when he created this plan.
Yeah, like, especially in an isolated area like this with that busy road, I'd love to see a park for the kids who are gonna be in there. Great if it was tied in with that, on the water or something, it'd be really cool. But I think that'd be good to see, and I hadn't even considered the idea of reusing those structures, but I did see those, I think there's pictures of those structures in the council packet or the
Yes.
planning packet, and they looked really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about the idea of reusing them, but I'd like to see, I'm gonna look into it again.
Okay?
So where can we see pictures of those?
I think it was the,
It would be in the council the city council packet from, for June 25th. So for tomorrow's evening,
Bring it up.
but I don't have that up here.
Page 180 of 290.
While it's a large packet, and I'll take a
Sure.
minute or so to find this. Are there other comments?
the trail connections would be important as well. That one's maybe more, and it's all private properties around there, so we don't really have an established trail line yet, right? So
Correct.
it's,
Yeah.
Either on North Diamond or along the shore.
right, and if it was along the shore, I mean, you'd have to
trail
go,
to
you'd have to go behind those homes, I guess, and cut onto the road. They're not gonna want a trail in their yard. And if I recall correctly, these are gonna be pretty spendy homes too. I don't know if that changed.
So
Or
the
makes a difference.
developer's assumption is that the lakeshore homes would sell for around 2 million.
Okay.
Page 202.
Do you know if there have been any updates with the developer on sewer versus septic? Just because that would change the quantity of the homes.
Yes, I know the developer is open to either one.
Okay.
So the images here are of the property, so this is along North Diamond Lake Road, and then these are the structures that I was mentioning, and then just a view of the lake.
So did I miss something? This will be on sewer and water?
So initially it came in, the developer was proposing to bring in sewer and water from Rogers. Planning Commission did not recommend that, so. And I should add that this is kind of going outside the preview of the Parks Commission. So this project is planned for sewer and water after the year 2050.
Right.
So there's a bigger conversation of if it's premature or not.
There's other properties out there that wanted to build that are outside of that as well.
Sure, yep.
Yeah.
Or make this one's fine, but the rest we can't.
So specific though to parks and trails, I guess the question kind of at hand is if this project were to move forward, what would you like to see for parks and trails?
Like to see parks and trails. I think a tot lot as a start because it's on that plan, and then, something to incorporate, at least thinking about future connectivity, whether it's, where between these homes would you spit a trail out? Maybe if it's not there today, that's fine, but we built in the easement or whatever is necessary to facilitate that. I think I'd like to see that. And on the, I guess it'd be the west side, maybe you're already set up if it tied in with that public or that water access. You'd still have to solve that other side. That's my 2 cents.
I see that it's very close to the Magnus Veterans Foundation. Maybe we
Yes.
can do our Memorial Veterans Park there. If it's a month.
Me at this part of this
Just saying, if
project.
it's right.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like.
Probably
the
not
best
something
one.
they're gonna
No.
do, but.
Take one of them $2 million lots.
Right.
And when is this supposed to start taking place, or when are they gonna break ground, or where is that?
So it needs to go through the approval process yet, so that typically takes about 6 months to go through, so this would be a 2025 construction if it's approved.
And does that start with the council reviewing it tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, I agree with John. I like that there's the path along the lake and up at the top on that busy road, but I think there needs to be a park structure inside of it, because that's kind of what, I mean, that's what I love about our community, is the fact that every new development is putting in parks, so that there's a place for outdoor green for individuals to gather.
They are planning for pool, playground, or all
No.
that's still, none of that's,
Nope.
none of that.
They don't have any of it in the plan.
Interesting.
It would seem to me as though the easement that he's showing there down to the lake with the boat launch, that could be reconfigured into a pretty good sized piece of property for a park.
And John, what did you say the houses were gonna go for again, or what was the idea?
I'm gonna say between 1 and 2 million, so
Okay.
there's a big difference between being on the lake and not being on the lake.
And so if it's going for that, maybe what they're thinking is it's a post-kids thing? Like a lot of people that are 55 to 75 that are, you know.
I would guess so.
I'm just
I don't know.
interested. I mean, that's such a
That's
different
true.
different
If it's an-
demographic than
it's
like
a community.
Pineview Meadows or River Hills. Like it just seems like a much different.
I don't think there'd be a lot of young families with kids
Yeah.
that could afford that, those
Right,
homes.
totally. So that's what I'm just wondering, like from a green space perspective, I guess I would, not saying it's good, but I understand why they're not wanting to have a lot of it because it's people that are probably
Sure.
there to boat.
But are grandma and
or to
grandpa
do,
gonna- Are grandma and grandpa going to be frustrated though when they bought this house and like, wait, where can I take my grandkids now that I have grandkids? I have to either take them along North Diamond Lake Road, which sounds like a terrible idea,
Yes.
or something else. You know,
Get in a car to another.
And the lot sizes are they half acre?
It varies, and this is gonna change. If the council is supportive of this, like this design will change quite a bit.
And John, is trail that's depicted there, does that follow the Diamond Lake Regional Trail? Because I think that cuts around there, doesn't it?
I wanna say that was along Xanthus, which is,
No,
no,
that's-
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I think it does come up around this side.
Yeah. Yep.
Because Magnus, we were going to try and link something in with Magnus, I think. Okay.
So potential of this being a regional park trail.
Yeah.
How many acres is this property?
40.
I guess looking at the relationship to council goals, how does jamming 45 houses in 40 acres preserve the rural character?
That's a question with every project.
Okay. Not the only one.
So other comments?
Let me get this, let me understand this if I could. Marty, the property around the lake is serviced by Rogers for sewer, but not for water.
Correct.
They have their own personal well,
Yep.
and then many years ago, we needed to do something, and so we,
Yeah. We had to move, we couldn't have all those septics and wells at the same time because we're getting issues with failures with the septic, which stand the chance
Right.
of corrupting the wells. So we put in a force main to Rogers with a limited number of services attached to it. I think it was something like 52 services that we had permission to put on that.
and so what are we doing here? this is gonna be,
So right now,
That's- yeah.
the request is to bring in sewer and water from Rogers for this project. So it is
and
totally
the council
separate.
is happy with
We'll,
that?
we'll find out
We'll
tomorrow.
find out tomorrow.
What do you think, Marty?
Don't put me on the spot.
You're asking-
I think, this is me speaking, I think it's a bad idea because it's taken away the opportunity for Dayton to develop out its own water and sewer system in this area. It will put us back a long ways through developing the system up to the old village area. So I think that this is premature project at this time.
I agree with that statement.
And how about you?
I think we should stick to the comp plan. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Makes sense. So I like the trails, we should have a park, the boat landing for them privately, give or take.
Okay.
We have a beautiful landing just on the other side of the lake.
I recall them
I was gonna
stating
say,
that
if they're looking for private stuff, would they be putting up a gated entrance then too?
I'm not sure we would allow that, but, I mean, that's. one
I'm
of the
just curious, like
questions for
whenever you
council.
start doing that,
It's,
because
That county road?
North Diamond Lake.
I don't
yeah.
think they'd allow it. But that's just my observation from other asks
Yeah.
from other places, so.
Sure.
I think I recall one of the goals of the boat launch or boat was multiple slips for the residents as a perk. So I would imagine they'd probably try to lock that up somehow.
So they could have their own row of docks somewhere,
So, like,
with their
the-
own
the
lifts
off-
everywhere?
So that the houses off the lake would have a boat on the lake potentially still.
Yeah, it's
Kind of
terrible.
DNR stuff would we need for that?
I know.
And I don't think
I-
John, I have a. This is gonna sound rude, but I'm just gonna ask it. We are like a lake family, and I've never thought of that lake as a lake that I would put my foot in. Why would people be spending $1 to $2 million a year to build or look at a lake that they're never gonna physically go in?
It might be cheaper than other lake properties in the Twin Cities. So, you
It's
know,
in the
a
Twin
lot of it
Cities.
is just the appearance of the lake, not necessarily.
Right,
being
like
able
people
to use it
that
every
build on
day.
the river and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I was just curious because for me, if I'm building a place on a lake or looking at a lake property, I'm looking for a beach. I'm looking for a shore. I'm looking for kids being able to play.
Yeah.
And I've never, not to be rude, but I've never thought of that lake as a lake that I was going to go hop in on a Saturday. Okay. Just curious. I'm just curious to see like, and I'd be interested to find like if there were actually 45 families that are gonna, or couples or individuals that would build, you know, $1 to $2 million homes on places where they can't actually. I mean, they can boat on it.
Sure, yeah.
But
I think there is.
you think so?
People just want the view. They don't want to look at
Yeah.
neighbors.
it's in the cities. It's one of the few
Close.
undeveloped lakes.
Yep.
That landing's busy on the weekend, I'll tell you, it's not all boats. People are splashing and playing.
Interesting.
Okay.
Maybe I need to go check it out again.
Yeah.
It's nicer than I thought.
Throw your suit on.
Might be as green as your lawn, but
Any other comments for this project?
Okay, can we move on? Do you have enough information?
Yes.
Sorry. No, that was fantastic.
That's not what I wanted. Okay, so the next project, I don't think I wanted to do that. It's referred to as the Shady property. And that might be as, oh, okay. It's a little slow to,
That'll make your files a
I'm gonna
little
stop
smaller,
touching
Paul.
this, yeah.
John.
So this is in the same neighborhood. It's on the north side of Laura Lake. The developer is proposing 13 lots that range in size between 3 acres and 24 acres. So what's unique about this property, so this is just south of Thicket Hill. Thicket Lake.
Thicket Hills.
Thicket Hills, yeah. So the developer's intent generally is to try to duplicate Thicket Hills a little bit as far as the character goes. So lot size varies between 3 acres and 24 acres. And then what I started to say is what's unique about this is there is a very large wetland complex to the north and to the west. There's a lot of topography kind of that splits the north property from the south property that leads into on here it's Lake Laura, but depending on the map, it's Laura Lake. So again, as it relates to parks and trails, the parks plan proposes a trail along the north side of North Diamond Lake Road as well as the south side, a trail that goes around Laura Lake, as well as a neighborhood park along the north shore of Laura Lake. And so a neighborhood park is defined as 5 to 25 acres, so this would be more of an active park. When we created the parks map, as far as identifying where parks go, it's kind of a bubble diagram. So somewhere within a search area is going to be, whether it's a neighborhood park or tot lot or something else, it's not necessarily the same location. But in this map, it identified the north shore area of Laura Lake. So again, just to summarize, what the parks plan is proposing is a trail along the north side of North Diamond Lake Road, as well as a trail along the shore of Laura Lake in a neighborhood park, generally on the north shore of Laura Lake, but is somewhere within that area. So comments specific to parks and trails.
I'm not crazy about this project at all. And the reason for that is that I'm the chairman of the Elm Creek Watershed Management Commission. And this is nothing but trouble. You know darn well those large parcels are gonna be horse ranches. And what are you gonna do with the, we've got ordinances now in the watershed where the property owner has to take his manure off-site to get rid of it. Here, we're gonna be in the same situation. I don't see how, I don't see how it's gonna work. I could be wrong. But boy, I tell you, I haven't been wrong for a long time. You can kick me later.
Why does he have to wait?
How big a park was that again? I'm sorry.
5 to 25 acres.
That's a chunk of land.
Yep.
All lowland?
Well, it depends. So, let's say a neighborhood park was going to be within this area. So you can look on here and it shows the topography. Where would it be appropriate? So the parks plan just throws out the north shore of Laura Lake, but then there's a question of how do you get there? Or how do you get access to it? If it were, this would be off of the development. If it were closer to the road, you could see that there's a park on the lake because it's between the lake and the road.
Sure.
But that's not part of this, that location's not part of this project.
And it would be open to the public, not closed to the development.
Yes.
Okay, well, can't go wrong with taking more land and a trail.
I am a little bit confused though, because it looks like that's a lot, the blue lines.
Yeah, so the
So-
development does not take parks and trails into account, so at the sketch plan stage. So
Okay.
this is,
So it would just be that lot would be smaller because you would cut out an access to a park.
or
that's gonna go
the
down
city
there.
would acquire that lot.
Or the city would acquire that lot, okay.
Do you know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just I don't know if this is confusing at all. So this is a proposed street that would service the project or the development and then connect to Thicket Hill. Thicket
Yeah,
Lane?
yeah.
Thicket Hill Lane.
Thicket Hills.
Yeah.
Thicket Hills is the neighborhood. I think Thicket Lane might be
Thicket
the
Lane would be
road.
the street name.
Yep.
So,
My question was related to that. So we're connecting these two neighborhoods. When Thicket Hills was built out, did they just contribute to the Parks Fund in lieu of? Like, there's no parks that I recall. They're definitely not in the
there are
neighborhood.
none, I could not say. So,
Sure.
and I don't remember when Thicket Hills was developed. I want
Sure.
to say it was the early
Thinking-
1990s, but
Yeah,
that's
way
a
before
guess.
me. Doug might remember.
I don't.
I'm just, that's another neighborhood that doesn't have a park, that we have an opportunity to kind of fulfill that need, potentially. Unfortunate for this developer that it might be their land, but they would have had to contribute something presumably anyway. Yeah, it looks like a great spot, but like you said, it's not that visible, not easily accessible without really weaving through the neighborhood on the north side of that lake, but I think it would be important to maintain connectivity and have a park in there. And that's all assuming that the watershed things were sorted out, which I'm not sure they could be, but.
Other comments?
I think that we have an urgent requirement to get our arms around a large animal ordinance.
Okay, so you mean specific to manure management?
Pardon me?
Like specific to manure management?
Not necessarily manure management, but how many animals you can have on a property.
We do have that now.
Well, you do, but I'm still seeing, as I drive the territory, I still see an awful lot of areas where it appears to be feedlot conditions. And that's just asking for trouble. So I think that I'd like to see a reduction in the number of animals that you can have on a property.
Okay,
Just,
we can, yep. We can look at that.
all right.
I guess I have another question. Looks like maybe an easement or something between the two parcels not involved in this development, just to the south there?
Yeah, so this is road right away. So this is
Okay.
Xanthus Avenue, I believe. And then we have road right away that is right across from there. Although there's a whole lot of topography, it may not be practical to build a street
Okay.
through here. That was the intention when this was originally platted, and I don't know the whole history of that.
But I guess this is just their proposal.
Yep.
Did the, okay.
Other comments? Nope. Okay. So the third project is DCM Farm. So DCM stands for Dean Country Manor. So this is Fernbrook and then 113th. This is Dean's Country Manor right here. This is a large, here we go. Large area, it's 90 acres total. The developer has submitted 3 different concept plans that generally range between 200 and 400 units, so depending if there's apartments involved or not. Generally speaking, these lots are either detached townhomes or single-family home, or a combination of single-family homes, detached townhomes, and then not shown on here, there's a couple of options for attached townhomes. So whether it's a 4-plex, a 6-plex, an 8-plex, this pinkish area is commercial retail. And then in the northwest corner, we have Area 21. So this is one of the developments that would be contributing towards Area 21. So questions related to parks and trails, the assumption is you're going to want to continue to accept land donations for Area 21. But then as far as trail connectivity between Area 21 and to other areas, and other parks and trails such as Elm Creek Park. The parks plan does include Area 21. I don't believe it includes any trails within this area, which is a little bit of a surprise. North of Area 21, well, through Area 21 is a large overhead utility line. So generally speaking, if there's a desire to take advantage of that, to put in a trail system, that would be important to know from the Parks Commission. And then also just any trail connectivity through the neighborhood, whether it's behind homes or on streets, or both.
So there already is a trail under those lines now on the top half, correct?
Through Brayburn, I believe.
Yeah, Braeburn, I
Yeah.
think that was part of the game plan there. And I think there's, to a degree, on Sundance Woods, I think there's a trail that does go underneath the power lines there as well.
Yeah, the concept plan, similar to the other ones, it doesn't include anything specific to trails, so it's just showing street and lot layout.
Well, I think it would be important to continue that trail because we're talking about putting it in half of the park, especially because I think most of our parking is going to be on that bottom half.
I'd agree.
Agreed, and I'd like to try to keep the snowmobile trail going as long as we can. You know, if we can build in a way that lets that continue to have folks on the north access, well, and vice versa, but, get people into, I don't know if Dean's is gonna persist but Sundance is down there too. It's fun to be able to ride down there. It's the rural feel, right?
You could keep a trail if we're looking at the very north of that. That butts up against Brayburn. Cut out a little trail there and you can almost wind it through all the rest of those properties, all the way down to Dean's Manor.
Like through the lots or through, I'm gonna call it the mid-blocks.
Right along here.
Okay,
And then keep it going, wind it all the way down.
Sure.
There.
Okay.
That would give some access. These, I assume, all have sidewalks. Big sidewalk all the way around, but that would give this better access.
okay.
Yeah, I like that idea, especially because is that line around the pond showing that they're putting a path around it, that line?
No, that's just a buffer area.
Oh, it's a buffer area. Okay, I was thinking that was a little path, so I thought then it would get them to it also.
Is the plan as of now to keep Dean's Country Manor and Sundance intact,
Yes,
and then put the commercial retail around it?
yeah, so this would be in addition to what's there now.
So it should get significantly, I'm just thinking from a parks perspective, it's gonna get more busy, significantly more busy from a trail perspective, so we're gonna be
Yeah,
fighting
yes.
a lot of cars.
Yep.
Okay.
Can have a prime rib dinner and then go for a walk.
Through the
And then go
retail
bowling,
center.
Yeah.
and get a late night pizza. Got it.
So in thinking about the commercial area, I guess also, is there anything, I'll call it special or unique that you'd like to see that's incorporating it into the commercial area? So, examples of like public plazas or someplace that's more, I'll say passive or invites people to come and gather, I guess.
I think bike accessibility would be big, especially with e-bikes. I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people are biking places. I don't know exactly what that means or what our role in making something accessible is, other than, the guidance we can give back to the developers maybe. I don't know if we require anything, but I think that'd be important. And the trails is maybe enough, The businesses can decide if they want to service and put bike racks up and stuff.
I think it's a good thing to keep them separated on that main road coming through. All those people living there, you wouldn't really appreciate somebody going for a pizza and then taking off for a walk through the neighborhood, stranger, just checking things out, I don't know. But just having some area of separation between the two.
Aren't they closing down some of Fernbrook once the Dayton Parkway is
You mean
Put in
Maple Grove
place?
Parkway?
Pardon?
You talk about Maple Grove Parkway? But
Well,
if-
the
okay.
extension of Maple Grove, and then doesn't that hook up with the Dayton Parkway?
No, it hooks up with Fernbrook. Maple Grove Parkway has just been realigned a little bit.
No.
Yeah, I think, John, at least my perspective on this is if they are gonna do the commercial retail and all of that, I think that all of those houses basically north of 81 and then over, and then Fernbrook, so anything from Elm Creek all the way over to the, a couple miles west, whatever we can do to get paths as they're going through all those neighborhoods, past that connect all the way through. So that someone that lives 2-3 miles away but doesn't have to get, they're west of Fernbrook, they could get over there easily.
Sure.
To whether it be bike or running or whatever it may be. And then again, I get John's recommendation on some form of, if someone could do some form of bike racks, I think that would be, it also seems like the perfect area if anyone's looking for input to have some form of another, I don't know if we need another one in the area, but a brewery or that type of a place. I feel like the people that live in that Sundance area really like Sundance already, but it's just getting so big and so busy that if they had another place that was a family, dog, kid-friendly patio type area,
Okay.
there'd be a lot of demand for that.
Family-friendly brewery, okay.
We don't even think of think of like an Elm Creek, right?
Yep.
Like a lot of people, or excuse me, Elm Creek or Omni, either one. It's a very open door and welcomes a lot of different types of people, whether they're bikers or kids or dogs. And I think those types of businesses, I mean, yes, people need to get their hair cut and get coffee and those things too. But having a business like that in that area, I think there's just so many families to support it. I know living up this way, there's been, I think everyone in our neighborhood asks every day, like when Rain Tree Plaza is going to become something more useful to the neighborhood. Because when we all moved in, we had Tasty Pizza for a few months, and then that went down, and we haven't had anything since. So I think, that's thinking of the southern part of the city, I think they would really support it well.
Okay. Other comments?
So there's a percentage of land that a developer has, and it breaks down to donated part, right?
Yep.
So does that area in the corner for Area 21, does that meet? Or are they missing a couple acres?
I haven't done the math on it. I'm sure this is less than the park donation. So
Okay.
this would be a combination of land and cash donation.
Okay. Unless the developer wanted to weave in a tot lot here.
Sure.
Or a
Yep.
gathering spot here. Okay.
Okay, any other comments on this one?
I don't see any area for an athletic complex here.
No, not on this one. Nope.
Or a zip line.
Is that on your mind? Is that
Oh, every day.
Are we thinking about that every day?
Yeah, so realistically, I mean, for a sports complex, it would go out where there's not sewer and water currently available. So that, essentially land that isn't as valuable as this is. So it would go farther north than where this project is.
I'm not talking Otsego, I'm talking Dayton.
I think he means like up Fernbrook. North and west of there where there's not. This is all sewer and water already.
Correct, yes.
I,
Trying to find cheaper lots is what it,
Cheaper land, yeah.
you're getting to the point where you're gonna be out there so far that Champlin won't even know how to get there. I mean, this
So-
is the Champlin Dayton Athletic Association. We have been very, very lucky because Champlin has worked with us. They have given us all of the complexes. All of those teams have used their facilities. Now it's our turn. And to have something on the Rogers border, I don't think,
And I don't
Is realistic.
When I say farther north, I don't necessarily mean, the north border of Dayton, but, this is more the south border, closer to Maple Grove. The Fernbrook is a major road that has access to Champlin. There's a lot of land between this and, Fernbrook to French Lake Road. So there's a lot more opportunities, but yes, we still need to find the right piece of land. So
I
it
think
is
you
something that I think
understand what
about.
I'm talking
Yep,
about. Carry
I
on.
do. Okay. So other comments related to this
He's not
project?
saying Brockton, he's saying Fernbrook. I mean, Fernbrook's a lot different than Brockton to Champlin people, so I think we're good.
You're pretty feisty tonight, Doug.
I just woke up.
That's what I'm thinking. Walked in at 29, yeah. 1 minute to go.
Okay. Let's see if I can switch this. Okay, so the last project is, I'm just referring to this, oh, I went too far, as a Pulte project, so, there we go. So this is at the intersection of Territorial Road and East French Lake Road. So this is a plan for, I can't remember what the number is, 42 single-family homes. The adjacent neighborhood is Territorial Trail. The intent is for this to be kind of a continuation of Territorial Trail as much as possible. The developer, specific to Parks and Trails, the developer is proposing a tot lot. There's been some conversations from the neighborhood that they don't necessarily want another tot lot. They would like something other than, another feature other than a tot lot. So like a sport court. So that's something I'm looking for feedback from the Park Commission. As far as trails go, Three Rivers is proposing a regional park trail along Territorial. And then within the parks plan, I believe we have a trail along East French Lake Road, but now I'm questioning my memory here, if that was included or not. Yes.
I know that
So-
we just pulled that one through Braeburn there that will link up on
Oh,
East
yes,
French Lake Road.
so, I'm glad you brought that up. So Three Rivers is proposing a regional trail along the north side of Territorial Road. The Parks Plan proposes a trail along East French Lake Road, and then Marty is talking about a trail that kind of follows the creek or the ditch that goes through this wetland complex, connecting to Braeburn and 117th.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on with this one. Also, there's a gas line easement that goes through the property, which the developer is proposing to put a trail along the gas line easement.
So with regards to that, on the right-hand side of this picture, that trail, is that the property that, the potential trail along the ravine or the ditch or whatever, is that property that was switching hands right after that? We met and discussed this, and then it came out that, oh, the HOA is actually just
Oh.
about to
That's
take
further
over.
north.
That's different? Okay.
Yeah.
This one's for sale.
Okay.
So again, the developer's trail layout is along the gas pipeline and then connecting to along East French Lake Road. The Parks Plan proposes a trail location all the way down to Territorial. So I guess the question is, how do you connect the Three Rivers Trail along Territorial to the city's trail along the gas pipeline? If you prefer that to go through the neighborhood or along East French Lake Road.
Get them off the road. Especially that stretch, if you're adding more people to it, put them in the neighborhood.
Is that going to be kind of like a corridor or a trunk for that regional trail then, or would that just be an offshoot into the Dayton trails?
It's a regional trail there, isn't it?
Three Rivers would be a regional trail.
So do you want to pump that through a neighborhood?
No.
I wouldn't pump the regional trail through a neighborhood.
But
I
it's
don't
just
think
that
that they would
section.
want to do
No.
that either. I think what we're talking about is one on East French Lake Road,
Right.
which is the city.
Okay, so that wouldn't be, okay.
No, that would be, that'd be a city trail.
Okay.
Right, so if you have the trail going through this gas line easement, they could go down that road where the little cul-de-sac is and then maybe hop onto Territorial from there.
Mhm.
And then that way you keep it in the neighborhood instead of on a busy East French.
And-
But then, where does the rest, I think we propose a trail going all the way up East French Lake Road.
Oh, to continue going north
Yeah.
to, yeah. So,
Yeah, if you already have a trail in there, then it makes sense that you just keep it.
okay, and I don't think there's a trail there currently. It would
There's a
be-
trail up through, Territorial, by Black Oaks Court there.
Okay,
It comes out onto, exits out onto there, but it's not fully
Okay.
developed out.
okay.
And when we talk a trail through the neighborhood, would that be like a sidewalk through the front yard on one side?
Well, that depends. I mean,
So we would have a sidewalk on one side of the street or another, but that's a
Yeah.
separate issue than from a trail.
yeah.
You know, so trail being 10 feet wide.
Okay.
8 to 10.
8 to 10 foot wide.
So more than a sidewalk?
Yeah.
Sure.
And you don't generally want to run a trail in front of somebody's front of their house because usually
Right.
black top trail and then to link those into black top driveways is kind of a messy thing, and it.
So how would you run
doesn't
that
link
through the
up too well.
neighborhood?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's probably the best answer.
I guess in my head, I'm seeing it along the road for that reason, but I agree, it'd be great to get people farther from a busy road, especially if it's not a main corridor and it's just a Dayton trail, but I'm just not picturing, I mean, I remember people were against even just adding the sidewalk because they don't want to shovel it in other neighborhoods, so.
And that, I think
Trying
the
to picture
intent
it.
if the trail were along the road, it wouldn't be, right up against the road. We'd have a boulevard between the two.
No, it makes sense, in my opinion, to keep it how it is. You give them a little trail through the middle, but you keep it along East French Lake just because you're gonna connect other communities trying to get down to your territorial road. So when they were saying they wanted something other than a tot lot, what was it that they had wanted?
A sport court, so
Like a
within,
pickleball court
or
or basketball
basketball,
or something
yep.
like that?
or something that no one else has talked about that you may be familiar with, so, and I don't know what that would be, but.
Yeah.
Sure, if I'm reading the map right, basically under the Y in Dayton is the existing tot lot, right? I'm
Yes,
look-
very,
So-
pretty close.
So yeah, you'd have the two tot lots are
Yeah.
barely a block away. I agree that, I was excited to see someone actually thought about a park in their plan, but it's just not the park we want or where we want it,
But
unfortunately.
I think it would be worth looking at something else.
Okay.
Yeah, if we already have that feedback, that's hugely valuable.
Anything specific as far as an idea goes? If it's a basketball court versus something
Well,
else?
sounded like there was some feedback already, not that that's necessarily representative of everyone, but was that specific feedback or just that we don't want another tot lot?
I think the intent is don't duplicate what's already there.
Okay, so they weren't asking specifically for pickleball or rollerblading or whatever.
There, well, I'm going to say I've heard suggestions of both basketball and pickleball and a playground for something, a different age group
Sure.
than what's already there. So there's competing interest.
Sure.
So would that then be just for this neighborhood, or again, open up to the city? Because if we're gonna do a
Yep.
couple pickleball courts, then we're gonna need some sort of parking, other people can come.
That's a great question for the commission, if you have a preference of a private park versus a public park.
I don't think we can do private.
Well,
Well, the
You mean
developers
do you mean
Right.
attraction versus just designated to a
yeah,
neighborhood,
so
sort of?
If it were specific to the neighborhood, then it would be probably just a basketball court or, or a tot lot or something that's
Sure.
a small facility. If you're looking at, a full-size basketball court or 2 or 3 or 4 pickleball courts, you're inviting, I'll say, non-residents to use
Sure.
this.
Yep.
And then it becomes more of a city park versus
destination.
a HOA park.
I guess my thinking is try to stick with the sort of scale of a tot lot, but maybe change the subject to half court or pickleball or something that might be more valuable to the residents, but not a total draw, because it's not meant to be a community park or whatever. That's what I was thinking.
You're saying keep it as a private HOA park.
I guess, no, I was thinking it would be a public city park that any resident has access to, but we don't build it with a parking lot and to draw people in from other neighborhoods,
Okay.
like a tot lot would be that, I could bring my kid there, that's totally legal, but you don't have a parking lot saying, hey, everyone, come here on Saturday.
Okay.
That's,
Right.
That was
So
my
it's just
thinking
a
on it.
smaller scale.
right.
You have
Not
to
not meant
have-
to attract others, but everyone's welcome, because it's a taxpayer city thing.
I think we have to get away from talking about not having any parking lots to get rid of people. You got old people like me with grandkids, you're gonna wanna park there.
I don't disagree. I think it looks, if they put it here, I think there's plenty of street parking for the size that that thing is going to be. I haven't had an issue at other parks in the city personally.
We have a lot of
But-
neighborhood parks that are already like in the neighborhood but don't have any parking lot, and people come and visit from around the community and just drive their car and park there, and it's fine because the roads are pretty wide and it's
So I
a
think-
non-issue.
I think it's accommodating enough.
That being said, Doug, I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent, but like if you go over to Rivers Bend, I still have never seen anyone park in those parking spots. We've got, what, 10 parking spots, Barry?
Yeah. it's more
8,
than
10?
I think it's more than 10, it's quite a few there.
There might be more than 10.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a car parked there. Now, I could be going there at the wrong point of day, but I think what John's is like, at a certain point, it's taking up space that's not necessarily
Sure.
getting used. You know, it'd be done different, Doug, if it was like, set up like Andrews Park with all the sports and all the things happening. That parking lot's awesome because it's got, you might have 500 people there at any given time. But so many of these parks are usually 10 to 20 people. It's like, well, you can just park on the street. And
Oh, park it on the street is fine as long as the citizens don't mind you parking out in front of their house.
Well, in this circumstance, I think there's a good amount of land that wouldn't be in front of someone's property. Not that they know exactly where their property line is and don't feel like that's their yard, but
so like
Um,
with
I know what you're saying. I've parked in front of homes for across the way here. I forget that development, and if you don't park on that one side, you're in front of someone's house. But they were nice and they waved.
But like with our park, we've got probably 10, you could probably park 10 cars back to back to back in front of our park that are just on the side of the road.
on the park
They
front.
aren't in a parking spot, but they're on the side of the road. There's just that opening to the park, and you don't have to have designated additional parking be poured.
I got a question. Hey, Marty, quick, do all city parks have to be ADA compliant?
I don't think there's any hard and fast rule that we have in our own guidelines, but I think that we are moving towards we have been making a conscious effort to make all of our parks ADA compliant in one way or another, whether it's accessibility or infrastructure that are included in the
Yeah,
parks.
I'm just curious, is that something that we like consider for like these tot lots? And then,
For like a parking, you thinking?
well,
Handicap parking space?
or handicap accessibility, like the curb cutouts, kind of thing like that.
Sure.
Just access.
Yeah.
Like you can park on the street, you
So
know.
wherever there's a curb cut out in Dayton, then they are designed for ADA compliance. So that the angle, and you have the domes in there and stuff like that. So there are all of our new curb cuts are ADA compliant.
They see that the county was going through and doing a bunch of work and making
Yeah.
like their portions, but like we have
Yeah.
some of our stuff. But I'm just curious, like on something like particular to like this one, would this be something that the city would move towards, like, hey, making that like ADA accessible, like as far as like having a specific curb cutout from
Yeah.
the street
Yeah,
for
we would do.
wheelchair accessibility and things of that nature?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, is that an element that would be implemented when we start, like, we're gonna own that lot, I guess, or that park, so is that part of our requirements then, is that it's
It would be
accessible for all?
when it was designed out, depending on where you have trails and access, for access to it, wherever you cross the road like that, then you would have ADA compliant ramps, ped ramps.
So you had mentioned something about an HOA. Is it possible that it could just be covered through an HOA instead of becoming a city park?
Yes, I mean, that's what the developer is proposing. So it's a question of the park commission, do you have a preference of,
Because if they're, because if they're willing to cover it in their HOA, then why are we talking about taking on more cost?
Well, I would look at like I Own Gardens as maybe the HOA folds and then suddenly they're not taking care of it and it wasn't designed with our input. That was my thinking on the value of having it be something that we deal with, but potentially
But,
it does cost more.
I think that's true of everything with the HOA. If they fold it, will eventually come back to the city
Right.
for us to maintain. I think that the thing that drove the I Own Gardens thing was it was 2 HOAs,
Okay.
2 developments that had a half each,
Okay.
and they assembled the lot that way. And 2 different developers, one had a HOA, the other one was going to have a HOA, and then they didn't. One of them didn't have a HOA at the end of the day. So that's. You would have had a park that was only half maintained. So
Sure.
that's
So maybe
what
it's less common than I thought, but I still
Yeah.
I still like the idea of a park that you drive by in the city being something that everyone's allowed to go to. So
Mm-hmm.
Right, but like ours is an HOA and people come to it. It's not like we're policing it.
sure.
Same with River Hills, same with others.
I just assumed that all of our parks.
I did until I joined.
Parks would be ADA compliant.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
Well, and there's a difference, I mean, this conversation when we're talking about curb cuts that are ADA compliance versus, I'll say, universally accessible play equipment where you have a flat rubber surface rather than wood chips or any other surface, or you have, swing sets that are easily accessible. So that's something that we haven't, I don't know if we've had that discussion here or not. But
I think that it has been brought up over the last, since we've been putting in parks.
Yeah.
New playgrounds has certainly been something that's been coming further and further to the forefront of what we do when we design. Particularly, I think when we did something like Rivers Bend or McNeil, there wasn't a lot of ADA compliant equipment being supplied by the manufacturers then. The accessibility of getting people there was easy enough, but actually having something there to occupy them when they got there, it wasn't so much of the swing sets, or the musical instruments that they can play on, that kind of thing. So as those things have become more available, we started incorporating them more and more into parks, and the rubber surfacing is something that we've been working on in the last 2 or 3 parks that we've done. So those are things that are just been developed with us organically. There's no city rules on that or ordinances or guidelines for how that should be done. It's just something that we're running with as a matter of doing the right thing.
Have you gotten any feedback from residents one way or the other on that? Like, hey, we love this compliance, or hey, I can't take my, okay.
No, I haven't got anything specifically positive. Since I had a lot of complaints about it before we were starting to do this stuff.
Sure.
And that's what kind of drives it, is people saying, I can take my kid to the park, but there's nothing for them to do there. So
Sure.
that's why we changed things.
So, sorry, I just have another question. So if it is an HOA, if they go that route, is it just left up to them then to just put in the tot lot? Like you can't
Yep.
ask
And if it falls
them?
into disrepair and the residents complain, it's call your HOA.
Yep.
Is that the same with the Balsam Apartments? Their playground's been out of
Yep.
service for quite a while. I was going to bring that up tonight.
Bleasy over here, the original tot lot over here, and Territorial Trail.
Sure.
all
And we would just
HOA.
recommend that they contact their management company. We don't have recourse as a city, and
Yep. There's nothing that we can do about it.
Oh, that's good to know.
because I've noticed driving by the Balsam Apartments, there's all those kids over there. They can't really get anywhere else very easily. I guess the townhomes have a playground, but it's been closed off for like 2 weeks maybe now. Summer's out. No playground.
Is there a requirement as to what the specifications are for the developer?
No.
No.
They can,
They can choose what they want and install what they want. That's generally
We
why
have no-
that's generally why those tot lots aren't up to the same standard as a city park.
So then that's the value of turning it into a city.
Sure, yep.
Yeah, and the maintenance aspect of it. If it's in disrepair, then we would do something about it.
That'll get taken care of.
Whereas HOA, who
Cost.
knows?
Okay,
It's all about dollars with that stuff.
yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, other comments on this?
are you all set?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Park improvement projects for 2024.
I was just reading.
Yeah. Commissioners, this is one of those projects that went the wrong way. Unfortunately, Paul had set a timeline that was unachievable, and so the majority of this park isn't going to be any of the parks are going to be constructed this year. Area 21 is definitely not going to be touched this year. We're looking to try and salvage what we can from the project. There's some irrigation, like I mentioned in here, that we had intended to do, so we're going to try and install that this year. And North Bridge at LC Stevens is what we're trying to get that installed this year. We've got the plans and everything ready for that, so that's going to be kind of easy to do. The rest of it, whatever we can fit in this year. There may be some structural work that we can do. But other than that, I think the majority of the project is going to be installed next year. Paul did supply a revised timeline on here that he is comfortable with working to. It means that it's not going to be done until 2025, basically. But in some ways, that might be to our advantage. I feel like Area 21, we might have secured all 4 areas of that, so we can do it as a one project. So that might be the benefit of that.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that this went the way it went, and I don't have any control over that part of it. So it's not good news, but there is some good news. We got a $100,000 grant from Hennepin Youth County Sports Grant for the playground and some other bits and pieces in there. So
Sweet.
That's for 21 specifically?
yeah,
PSA 21?
yeah,
Cool.
that's what we applied for it for.
Awesome.
Well, that's good.
That's
That
a
is
positive.
great. That
Well,
is
yeah.
great news.
But the rest is pretty depressing. So
We're going to focus on that positive.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
Not to go on an
Yeah.
ugly twist here, but can we find another group to do some architecture work for us?
Absolutely.
Because this is very disappointing since, kind of the hype going into the new year was all this stuff that we were going to accomplish. I get it. People get busy. Own up to it, say, I'm too busy, come to us. And that was in March that we were riding this horse, and then in May, this comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
I would highly urge the city to find another place to go with. Break out the parks, make it more consumable, digestible, passable, so we can continue working. Because even the citizens, we had them out, hoorah, this is what we want to see, this is what we want to do. Unfortunately, we met a vendor who can't do stuff. Let's turn it into a bright side for them.
Yep, and I totally agree with you, Dave. We will be looking at alternative vendors and probably RFP in the next park. I've already scoped out a couple of people that are interested in doing stuff for us. So it's just unfortunate that this has happened. We've had good luck with previous parks using this method. At some stage, the wheel breaks, I guess, and then you've got to look at something different.
Sure. That's all I have.
Yeah, I would just echo what Commissioner Peichel said. I think it's just good practice to shop around once in a while anyway, so.
I don't disagree. But we did get $100,000.
Yeah, we did.
Can you turn it into 200?
Get to Vegas.
Did you just get that information? I didn't even know that.
That was last week, I think, or maybe the week before.
Worked in the 80s or something.
Yeah, I could put it on the horses, see how that goes.
We'll just hold it.
Plenty in town, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just
Like,
put it in a
let's
can
just
somewhere. Let's not touch the horses.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, what's up?
Leathers Park, another tragedy story.
Is there another
dark
100,000?
quick. Yeah.
Well, John's had all the good news. I got the bad stuff. So we designed the park, and we bid it, got everything approved. We got a little bit behind with the seeding on that because it took longer to prep the ground and stuff at Leathers. Finally got it planted, I think it was last spring. Big drought year, of course, and so the seed didn't germinate at all. The cover crop was great. Plenty of ryegrass over there, but very little else.
The turkeys love it. The turkeys absolutely love it.
Oh, I bet they
It's
do.
a wildlife refuge.
There were some small buds of stuff coming through, but nothing is going to establish from that. So I talked to the contractor. They came out, agreed with that. They're going to go through and re-prep it, reseed it, and it's going to be at their cost. They're not going to charge us anything to do it. I think, I can't remember the exact time frame, but they're going to be in mowing through this summer, and then they'll do the ground prep in the fall, and I think they're going to seed in the spring of 2025. And it should look, I don't know if you guys have been down by Cloquet Overlook, I think it's going to look somewhat like that.
Sure.
They're starting to establish, and they will be doing a maintenance program on that for 3 years as well. So.
Okay.
Do they share any more than this kind of high level stuff with you? Like, I guess it's in the map of like what they're planting. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've got
like
the seed
if the
mixes.
things they're planting and how they're planting them match up with the right time of year. Because I was talking with the neighbor Joe who
Yep.
does this. It's been his hobby since he retired 18 years ago or whatever.
Yep.
And he was just like, why are they planting right? Why would they plant then? They should be planting this time of year. That's the best time for.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to tell them how to do their job, but the first run didn't go that great. Maybe they'd be open to. I don't know.
I've got all the
Yeah, like
specific
plants
seed
in
mix
fall.
information if you want it.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I mean, some of it's, I think, outlined on this map,
Yeah.
like high level, but I would be curious just because I've kind of dug into some of that stuff. I'd be personally curious what they're looking at.
I can send that to you.
Is there any way we can put the bench up and trash can or anything there in the meantime?
There's,
Or is it just easier?
I'd
to
say
see
there's no
without
point.
stuff there?
As someone who looks at it every day, there's no point in, it's just a bunch
Yeah.
of sparse ryegrass right now to put a
Yeah, I
bench in
did
the
think-
middle.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I did. The probability is
If
that's gonna-
anything, and this is, I think, what I originally emailed Marty about, I think what will be really valuable, like yesterday maybe even, is this is a native planting site, it's in progress, so people who drive by don't think it's just a park that we forgot to mow for 2 years, because that's kind of what it looks like with the half germination.
Yeah.
To show that
That
it's
would make
intentional,
sense.
I think will give, again, not that I know of any
I think
neighbors that
we
are
did
complaining.
have
but-
some signs out there. I think Norby actually posted some when they were working there.
I don't recall seeing them in the last couple weeks on walks.
No, I don't think they're still there. I think they disappeared.
Yeah, because I just went on a bike ride over there and I didn't see any signs.
Yeah, I know that when they were working there, they definitely posted some signs, but I don't think they were very robust, permanent signs.
I agree.
I can
though.
put
Just
Something weatherproof
up.
on a T-post, I mean, it's not free, but
Yeah.
for tens of dollars, we could probably make a decent sign that's gonna stick around and,
Do
I
we have
agree.
irrigation there? Or-
No.
So it was just basically bad luck last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this year it probably would have washed out.
I don't know, it could have done,
Or
yeah.
is there like any other seed that we've had as a city that's germinating this, or has it just been washing out because we've had so many big rains?
I think it's all about timing with this. I mean,
Yeah.
any seed mix that you put down with the rains that we've had recently is probably going to be a washout deal. I don't think there's anything, and it's not the way that it's been planted. It's been slit seeded into the ground, so it's not like it's
Okay,
been
that's good.
put across the top. So I think it was just bad luck that it was so hot last year and it
And
didn't
dry.
have a chance.
Yeah.
and the idea with a native prairie is once it's established, it can exist here, because
Yeah.
it has before.
Yeah.
It's just that
and you don't
And that-
we have
need
to
put
overcome
water
what's
out
been
of-
there for, whatever.
And that was exactly the reason why we chose that for Leathers, is because irrigation to put it in there is just superbly expensive.
Totally.
You got to drill a well and run 3-phase power there and stuff, and that we've looked at it several times. It's just incredibly expensive.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that they're taking care of it.
Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight?
I sort of already mentioned it, but like I said, I've driven by those Balsam apartments, and I see how many kids wait out for the bus, and now they don't have a playground, and it bums me out. I was hoping it was a city park that we could do something about, but if it's something under their management, I'll assume that the residents have reached out. Maybe they don't even know that they should. Maybe it's the bystander effect and nobody's saying anything, but
Yeah. I'll see if we can put some pressure on from the city.
I mean, if it was a matter of we just can't get a maintenance guy out, we need a bolt replaced or something. I mean, I don't know. There's probably liabilities with your guys working on stuff. That's just kind of thinking if it's a resourcing thing, could we help? Or if it's a responsibility thing, can we put pressure?
Yeah, I think that that's Sands Company. They're usually very good.
I've heard that as well, working on the fire side.
So I don't know why
responsive.
that's not working out, but I think that I've got a couple of contacts with Sands that we can give them a call and see if we can pressurize them to get that done.
Awesome. Thank you.
So there is no meeting in July, and our meeting for August is on the 6th of August. I might have a problem there. Okay. Is there any other business we need to attend to?
Is everyone good with 8-6 for the next meeting?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
John, good? Okay. Doug, do you think does 8-6 work for you, or do you want to move it to another day?
Well, I think if we have a
Quorum.
We
quorum,
have
we
4 of
just
us.
need to
Yeah.
stay
Okay.
with the schedule.
Perfect.
Okay, so for August, you mean? I'll try to get back for the August meeting.
Okay. Otherwise, the 4 of us will be here.
There's a
Yeah.
chance I'd be out of town, but I could join if it makes a quorum. I could try to find a public space and join.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. I don't know what part of that week I'll be gone exactly, so I might or may not be in town, but
Quorum, do we need 4 or do we need 3?
3.
3.
So the 3 of us.
And I'll
are
do
here.
my best to get back by
Or just
August.
set your alarm a little earlier, Doug.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Third, we stand adjourned. Have a happy summer. See you all in August.